Hello, everyone. Can you see me? Can you hear me okay? I changed my mic setup a little bit, so I'm hoping it sounds good right now. I got a chance to test it a bit, so I think it's okay, but I just want to make sure, um, it's, loud enough for you and not fuzzy or weird or whatever. Um, And Henry, if you take a nap during my stream, or I guess it's not a nap for you, if you fall asleep during my stream, that is totally fine. It sounds like you need to rest. Um, Elsie, hi. You can see and hear me? That's awesome. I was surprised to start things up and see that like a chat was already happening. I was like, "Oh no, am I super late?" But no. I'm good. Um Yeah, I'm excited because I got like a different thing for my mic and it kind of let me set it up a little bit better because before there's like no room on my desk to put the boom arm for the mic, really. It's like in the front of my desk and everything was kind of like right in my face and like super awkward and in the way, and I feel like it's a little less in the way now, so I'm happy about that. Oh yeah, y'all are just early today. Yeah, no problem. Um, I was just working on a thing. I was like, you know what? I want to have a little music playing when I'm like on a break with the little be right back thing, and I figured out how to do that in Canva. And I am going mad with power with Canva because like I'm hoping next week I'll have this finished. I'm gonna have the little stream break thing, and there's gonna be music, and there's gonna be quotes. And I just was putting in some quotes just now, and I asked on the Discord if anyone has good quotes from QJJ, like up to the point that we're at, and I'm really excited about that. Blue, I'm glad the sound is good like this too. Awesome. So yeah, we had a very exciting stream last time. I mean, besides the obligatory like accidental boner scene, it was genuinely like action-wise a very exciting stream. Things kind of escalated to a point that I wasn't totally expecting. So I'm really curious to see how they deal with all that today. Y'all, I can't. um, Someone was excited for sure. Henry, oh yay, boner. Um, Wait, Henry, what just started now for you? Getting sleepy, or is the stream being weird? Just want to make sure there's no lagging. Everything should be good today. Okay, so... Oh, it started a few minutes late. Okay, cool. Um, so we are on page 263 for chapter 26, which is called Bitter Frost. Imperial concubine Wei looked around nervously as she followed the eunuch to her audience. Seeing only unfamiliar palace walls around her, she asked, Gong Gong, where are we? Where is Her Majesty the Empress Dowager? The eunuch leading the way ignored her. The eerie silence made her hair stand on end. She stopped in her tracks and complained of a stomach ache, making a great scene about wanting to head back. This eunuch before her was one she'd never seen. His face was young and unfamiliar when he turned back to look at her. We will be there soon, he said gently. To the eunuchs accompanying them, he said, Support Lady Wei as she walks. We mustn't let her fall. The eunuchs on either side immediately grasped Imperial concubine Wei's arms. She struggled, raising her voice to yell, but more hands gagged her mouth. The eunuchs nimbly hoisted her off the ground and sped down the corridor. In a small, deserted courtyard lay a well. Some water remained at the bottom. The eunuch craned his head and looked in. Right here. Send the lady in. Imperial concubine Wei fought with all her might. Her manicured fingernails scratched the arm of the leading eunuch, her hair disheveled as she shook her head and sobbed, clinging to the edge of the well. The eunuch stroked her pretty hand. When he told the men to lift the stone over her fingers, his voice held pity. Far below, there was a plunk. The sound startled the birds on the branch overhanging the vermilion wall, and they scattered in flight. Hey, Wolf. That was a start to the stream. I'm concerned. Okay. And there was a scene break. The Xiande Emperor lay inside the carriage. Li Jianheng knelt by his side, cradling a bowl of medicine. The Emperor's breaths came so weak, he hadn't even energy to cough. He beckoned to Li Jianheng, who quickly put the bowl aside and shifted over. Imperial brother, are you feeling better? Jianheng, the Emperor croaked, placing a hand on the back of Li Jianheng's. Your subject and brother is here. Li Jianheng started crying again. I'm right here. The late emperor, in his final years, ruled under the control of others. At that time, our eldest brother was the crown prince of the Eastern Palace, while we, the emperor, met his eyes. We were like you, an idle prince. The whims of fate are unpredictable. In the end, this empire fell into our hands. But since our ascension, we have been constrained at every turn. Each move was like a puppet dancing before a screen. If Imperial Mother wanted us to laugh, we laughed. Now she wants us to die, so we must die. Li Jianheng was choked with emotion. In the future, the Emperor continued, just as our father was, and just as we have, you will become that same lonely man on the throne. Li Jianheng burst into tears. He held the Emperor's hand and pleaded, Imperial brother, how could I rule? I'm but a worm in this Li clan's empire. How can I possibly sit at its peak? Imperial brother, I'm scared. I'm so scared. Blue. uh, I can't with Beta Wolf. Don't be. With a sudden surge of energy, the Emperor gripped Li Jianheng's hand and opened his eyes wide. You are different from us. The Empress Dowager's kin have lost. Death is all that's left for Hua Siqian and Pan Rugui. Kill them, and the Empress Dowager will have no one left to aid her. Power will fall back to you, and you will be the ruler of all lands under heaven. What we couldn't do, you can. The Emperor coughed so violently, his whole body shook, but he was unwilling to release Li Jianheng. He continued with blood in his mouth. Eliminate the Empress Dowager's kin, and keep close watch on the court officials. The Hua clan has lost today, but there are others you must bear in mind. Allow no one to sleep too soundly in the bed of imperial power. Those who save you today can kill you tomorrow. Military power is like a tiger. Xiao The Emperor vomited fresh blood, sending Li Jianheng into a panic. You must not. The Emperor gasped for breath and gripped Li Jianheng's hand so hard it bruised. Must not. Release. Ah, yeah. And he doesn't say this. You must not release Ah, yeah back to Li Bei. It didn't matter if he was an idle young master or an extraordinary prodigy. The Xiao clan would only remain a loyal dog if he remained in Chudu. Even if the Empress Dowager's kin had been defeated, it didn't mean the frontier garrisons would never consolidate their power and assemble an army to challenge the throne. Without the Hua clan, who could hold the Xiao clan in check? If Xiao Chuye had the capacity to endure in silence for 5 whole years in Chudu, making a miracle out of the degenerates in the imperial army, imagine if they gave him another 5 years in Li Bei. He would surely become their most lethal threat. Imperial brother. Li Jianheng was dazed. How can we do that? Imperial brother. Which, Xiao isn't said out loud. Oh, what, the thing that wasn't said out loud was that the Emperor was going to say, you must not release Ah Ye back to Li Bei. But it's just in italics. He wasn't able to get that out. He just said, must not release Ah Ye. So Xiao Chuya. Yeah. Strip the territories of their power and reduce their troops, the Emperor said weakly. If necessary, kill. And he doesn't say this part. Kill him. When Li Jianheng saw the Emperor close his eyes, he let out a wail. Until the very moment of his death, the Xiande Emperor never released his hand. The resentment and gloom between his brows never dissipated so long as he lived. He had sat upon the throne for 9 years, yet never had he made a single decision without a nod from the Empress Dowager. It was the Empress Dowager who had final say over his meals, clothing, expenses, even over which woman would spend the night in his bedchamber. The boldest move he made in his life was to establish covert communication with Qidong and draw Shi Guan over to his side to pave, at the Nanlin hunting grounds, what seemed like a smooth path to the throne for his brother Li Jianheng. As soon as the Emperor's death was known, the long procession making its way to the capital stopped, and cries of grief and sorrow rent the air. The crowd of ministers went to their knees. At their fore was Hai Liangyi, racked with sobs. His devastated cries of, Your Majesty, were the final honors accorded to the Xiande Emperor. The funeral bell in Chudu tolled without end, and the nation mourned. Blue, I was just thinking, imagine your mom or, mother-in-law? Right? The Empress Dowager. I think she's like the mother-in-law. Imagine her being the one who decides even who you take to your bed. Awful. Absolutely awful. Empress Dowager Hua sat on her settee, feeding the Xiande Emperor's parrot with a wooden spoon. At the sound of the bell, the parrot screamed, Jianyun, Jianyun, Jianyun is back. The eastern pearls dangling from the Empress Dowager's ears swayed as she nodded. Jianyun is back. Well, he's dead, but back in a way. The parrot screamed, Imperial Mother! Imperial Mother! Empress Dowager Hua remained motionless, save for the rhythmic tapping of her spoon. As she sat within the slanting shadow, the streaks of white in her hair could no longer be covered, and the fine lines at the corners of her eyes resembled the cracks on a prized porcelain antique. The parrot screeched a few more times before falling headlong from its perch, permanently silenced. The Empress Dowager set the spoon aside and sat quietly until the bell rang no more. Where is Imperial Concubine Wei? What's taking her so long? Oh, bye, Wolf. And bye to the parrot, I guess. With the death of the Xianda Emperor, Xiao Chuye's return to the capital was so busy he could hardly breathe. For several days, he knelt together with hundreds of other officials. By the time he could finally lie down, he was exhausted. But exhausted as he was, he still had to bathe. As Xiao Chuye wiped his body, he saw that the wounds on his shoulders and arms had already scabbed over. He pulled on a clean robe and came out to ask Chen Yang, "Where is he?" This time, Chen Yang knew who he meant. The embroidered uniform guard is being reorganized, so he's been in the process of re-enlistment the past few days. He's barely been home. "I was asking," Xiao Chuye said, "about Jilei. Whom are you talking about?" Chen Yang scratched his head abashedly. "Oh, Jilei. He's been detained. He'll probably face beheading after the new emperor ascends the throne. But Your Excellency, weren't you the one who locked him up a few days ago?" Blue. Boy, you're crystal clear. Xiao Chuye shrugged on another layer and said in all seriousness, "I forgot." Shen Zichuan, Ge Qingqing, and Xiao Wu were eating noodles at a street stall. They were halfway through their meal when Xiao Wu suddenly looked up and stared fixedly ahead. Shen Zichuan turned to see Xiao Chuye tossing some silver to the stall-keeper. He lifted his robe to sit beside Shen Zichuan as he called, "2 bowls of noodles." Xiao Wu slurped his meal down. Taking hold of the bowl, he shuffled his butt away to another table like a hunted quail. Under Xiao Chuye's gaze, Ge Qingqing took his own bowl and joined him. Shen Zichuan picked at his noodles. "I'm full." "Finish it." Xiao Chuye pulled out a pair of chopsticks and clacked them at Shen Zichuan. "Afraid to see me? Look how anxious you are to flee." "Of course." Shen Zichuan slowly took the last bite. "Anyone who's been pinned down once would be afraid." Henry, the noodles aren't the only thing that's about to be slurped down. "You ran off pretty fast the other day, too, when we were protecting the new emperor." Xiao Chuye's noodles came, and he poured vinegar into the bowl. "It was a great opportunity for a promotion. Why did you run?" "I didn't do anything." Shen Zichuan blew at the soup and drank it, so there was no reason for me to stay. Xiao Chuye ate his noodles in silence. When he had almost finished the bowl, he said, "Come to think of it, you must have crouched behind me for a long time that night, mustn't you?" Deciding whom to choose? Why not play it by ear? If Shi Guan captured Chudu, you'd give me a stab. If he failed, you'd give me a hand. Keeping an eye out for the perfect opportunity. Just waiting for me to take a fall before you made your move. "Then you're lucky." Shen Zichuan turned to him with a smile. "You're still alive." "You wouldn't be the one who shot that arrow at me, would you?" Xiao Chuye wondered aloud. "If I weren't in such a perilous position, how could you have emphasized the significance of your favor?" I haven't even asked for anything in return. Why do you assume I'm plotting against you? Not asking for anything in return is the problem. Xiao Chuye still seemed hungry. He set down his chopsticks and said, "You couldn't risk appearing before Prince Chu that day. Was it because you were afraid of Jilei, or because you were afraid Hua Siqian would let something slip?" Shen Zichuan stacked his copper coins neatly on the table, then leaned close to Xiao Chuye and whispered, "Wrong. I was afraid of you." "Afraid of me?" Xiao Chuye echoed. Oh, this book is killing me. Of that hard thing. The sounds and voices around Xiao Chuye seemed far away. All that remained in his ears was this warm puff of hard. He realized that Shen Zichuan was wearing a collar that fastened high on his neck today, denying him the chance to lay wanton eyes on it again. His face moved through several expressions. Finally, he looked at Shen Zichuan and squeezed out through clenched teeth, "You don't need to worry. Our Gongzi has come of age now." Shen Zichuan straightened. "It's about time you find yourself a wife." "What do you know of it? Your Argongzi is more seasoned than you realize." Seeing Shen Zichuan rising to leave, Xiao Chuye grabbed his wrist and pulled him back into his seat. "You're always trying to go before I'm done talking. That's against the rules. And you're always laying your hand on me at every turn," Shen Zichuan said. "Tell me again about the rules." Xiao Chuye released his wrist. "I'll repay you for the favor." "Call me master, and I'll consider it even. But first, there's something you owe me. Surely you don't want me to keep chasing you for that thumb ring, right?" Without another word, Shen Zichuan tossed the bone thumb ring to him. Xiao Chuye caught it and looked at him skeptically. "What kind of gimmick is this? Returning it the moment I ask for it?" "This is the way honest people handle matters," Shen Zichuan said. "Quick and straightforward." At this point, there was nothing more to say. Xiao Chuye watched Shen Zichuan rise to his feet. He turned the thumb ring in his fingers, thinking it had been far too easy. "Going home?" Xiao Chuye asked behind him. "I'm on duty tomorrow." "The embroidered uniform guard is being reshuffled." "What duty?" Xiao Chuye asked. "Winter is bitter in Chudu. Take care. Small fry like me drift with the current and go with the flow." Shen Zichuan turned around. "I'm not the one who needs to take care." Xiao Chuye rubbed his knuckles. "While you're at it, send my regards to Ji Gang Shifu." Shen Zichuan paused mid-step and swiveled to face Xiao Chuye. Slipping on his thumb ring, Xiao Chuye smiled carelessly. "So, Lanzhou, want to come play with me?" Well, that's the end of the chapter. We're off to a start today. I'm just... I kind of forgot where chapter 25 broke. before we started today. I feel like we were just dropped into a million different things, and I was not prepared for it. Yeah, wait. What happened before? And if someone wants to remind me, where we left off last stream, like the immediate ending to chapter 25, because I do feel like, a tiny bit lost. I might have just forgotten something at, like, the very end. But yeah, Blue definitely, this novel likes to do that. So, we are on page 271 for chapter 27, Autumn Chill. Shen Zichuan immediately smiled. This is no big secret. Goodbye. Why not hear me out first? Xiao Qiye was in a good mood after recovering his lost thumb ring. Jigong is your Shifu. So we're fellow disciples of the same martial lineage. I'm older than you, so it would only be proper for you to call me Shishong. Now, I've been wondering about this, because we know that Xiao Qiye, for some reason, was able to do the G-style boxing moves. He had, like, a similar fighting style to Shen Zichuan. And we didn't know why. And I was wondering if Xiao Qiye's Shifu somehow knew the G-style boxing and taught him that, like, indirectly. Maybe we're gonna find out what's going on with that. Blue. They tried to kill Li Jianheng, and then it turned out a whole army was on their heels. So they turned around and started acting like they were trying to save him all along. Oh, okay. Right, okay. That's where we left off. Cool. Where? The Ji family has no connections in Li Bei. But even as he said this, Shen Zichuan recalled his fight with Xiao Qiye in the snow 5 years ago. Back then, he'd felt a sense of familiarity that had nagged at him. Perhaps they do, perhaps they don't, Xiao Qiye said. It's hard to say for sure when it comes to things like fated meetings. Shen Zichuan gestured for Ge Qingqing and Xiao Wu to wait, and sat back down beside Xiao Qiye. You looked into Ge Qingqing. I couldn't forget it. Xiao Qiye looked at him. He fled from me so quickly 5 years ago. And now, 5 years later, he's so close to you. How could I not be suspicious of such a glaring coincidence? So, following that thread, I managed to find out all about him. What do you want? Shen Zichuan asked with a smile. Nothing. Xiao Qiye raised a finger and gestured at Shen Zichuan's eyes. No need for your fake smiles. We're practically sworn friends in life and death by now. Why put on a brave face? You're panicking. Scared now, huh? Not quite yet, Shen Zichuan said. Xiao Qiye spun his chopsticks around and tapped the table absently. If Jigong is your Shifu, it makes sense that the embroidered uniform guard, led by Ge Qingqing, spared your life back then. You're overly suspicious. Shen Zichuan looked down at the brown oil stains on the tabletop. Just because that kick didn't kill me, you kept nosing around. You sure are dogged. Dogged? Dogged? I'm not sure how to pronounce it in that context. It's one of the few virtues I have, Xiao Qiye said, and I spent it all on you. Since you say we are of the same martial lineage, Shen Zichuan said, it wouldn't be proper of you to keep your Shifu's name from me, would it? Xiao Jie tossed the chopsticks back into the bamboo holder, which promptly toppled over. Let's hear you call me Shixiong first. Shen Zichuan said nothing. Ji Gong is an impressive man, Xiao Jie said. I sent someone in Duanzhou to make inquiries. Everyone there thought he died in a fire. Say, was he the one who killed Xiao Fuzi? Nope. Shen Zichuan righted the chopstick holder. My Shifu is of an advanced age. How could he take a life? The wind picked up. Neither man moved. You seem like you've done nothing, Xiao Jie said. Yet I feel like you've done everything. Whether I did it or not, you all refused to let me go. Bracing his hands on the bench, Shen Zichuan turned to Xiao Jie and laughed quietly. Well then, so you can be justified in hating me? Well then, so you can be justified in hating me. Why don't I do all those bad things? It was only when Xiao Zhiye entered the palace the next day that he learned of Imperial Concubine Wei's death. Li Jianheng had already adopted the emperor's robes. He looked drained and sallow from the days he'd spent crying. Seated on the dais, he said, They say she slipped and fell into the well. They didn't find her body until last night. How convenient this slip was. Seeing no one around, Li Jianheng whispered, Sa'an, don't tell me it was you. Xiao Zhiye shook his head. Li Jianheng looked immediately relieved. He shifted uncomfortably in the emperor's seat. Now that I live in the palace, whenever I open my eyes at night, I can see eunuchs waiting. It's quite terrifying. They used to call Pan Zhugui Lao Zuzong, and now their Lao Zuzong is locked up in prison. Sa'an, do you think they hate me? He loosed a stream of grumbles, all revolving around the topic of how fearful he was. In the end, he convinced Xiao Zhiye to send the imperial army into the palace to take over the important tasks of guard and patrol duty, at least for now. Xiao Zhiye naturally would not refuse. After another moment, Li Jianheng said, Li Bei has sent a letter. The Prince of Li Bei and your brother are on their way. You'll see them in just a few more days, Sa'an. Li Jianheng was nakedly playing up to Xiao Zhiye with this. Now that he stood on the cusp of becoming master of all the lands, he was more timid than he'd ever been. His insufferable arrogance seemed to have been stripped away entirely during the autumn hunt. Finally, he understood who held the real power. Not that Xiao Zhiye intended to seek rewards or accolades. Li Jianheng knew more than anyone the thing he most wished for. Yet to date, Li Jianheng had said nothing about letting him go home to Li Bei. Xiao Zhiye's face remained impassive, hiding his sinking heart. 5 days later, the Prince of Li Bei arrived in Chudu. Autumn rain had fallen uninterrupted all day. Still, Xiao Zhiye rode his horse out of the city early in the morning and stood in the pavilion where he had seen them off years ago. After 4 hours' wait, he finally saw several falcons materialize on the distant horizon. On his shoulder, Meng grew excited and charged into the rain, drawing great arcs in the sky as he caught up with his brothers and sisters. The armored cavalry burst from the curtain of rain like a stroke of dark ink drawn through water, sweeping toward Xiao Zhiye. Unable to wait, he leapt out of the pavilion and dashed into the rain to greet them. Father! Atop his horse, Xiao Jiming laughed loudly and said to his father, He looks so big and strong now, but the instant he sees you, he shows true colors. Xiao Fengshu took off his bamboo hat and leaned over to drop it onto Xiao Chuye's head. "You've grown taller," he said after studying his son a moment. Xiao Chuye grinned wide. "That's right. Even Daga is half a head shorter than me now." "What a smug little brat," said Xiao Jiming. "Ever since he outgrew me, he's been mentioning it every year when we meet." Xiao Fengshu handed his reins to Zhao Hui and dismounted. Then he reached out and pulled his youngest son into a hug, clapping him heartily on the back. "Silly boy." Xiao Chuye laughed. "I've been waiting a while. Did something keep you on the way?" And there is art. Hello, it's Dad. Dad and Big Brother. "The little master caught a chill before we left home," Zhao Hui explained. "So the prince made a detour through Dongzhou to invite the venerable master Yi Deng for a look." "Ashun is sick? Since when? Why didn't Daga mention it in his letter?" "It's only a minor illness," Xiao Jiming replied. "Yi Zhi is looking after him at home. You don't need to worry." Xiao Chuye couldn't help his disappointment. When he'd left Li Bei 5 years ago, his sister-in-law was pregnant. Now, little Ashun was already 4, but Xiao Chuye hadn't seen him yet. All he learned about his little nephew came in scraps gleaned from his father and elder brother's letters. He wanted to go home. But Xiao Chuye's low spirits were fleeting. He smiled. "I've got a birthday present ready. When Daga returns home, please give it to him for me." Xiao Fengshu dusted off the brim of his bamboo hat. "Before we set off, Shun R specially painted a picture for you. I'll have Zhao Hui bring it over later. Let's not chat here. We'll make our greetings in the palace first, and talk when we return to the manor tonight." They mounted their horses and rode together into Chudu. Blue, you're so right. The fact that we know exactly how Xiao Chuye is going to look as a DILF in 30 years. Oh. As summer turned to autumn, Grand Mentor Chi ate so well he put on weight for the first time in years. He was presently washing his feet in the rain, wiggling his toes. It had been many years since the Prince of Li Bei had shown himself in the capital. Now that the names of the 4 generals had spread far and wide, few still remembered the Prince of Li Bei, Xiao Fengshu. "If we're speaking of the 4 great generals of the land," he began, "we had the same 20 years ago. Back then, Xiao Fengshu of Li Bei, Qi Shiyu of Qidong, Lu Pingyan of Bianjun, and Feng Yisheng of the Suotian Pass were the leading commanders of the military forces at the 4 corners of the empire. Feng Yisheng died in battle, and the Feng clan had no surviving heirs. I doubt anyone remembers this name today. But back then, they were valiant warriors, all who took their horses to the frontier pass and wiped out the Biansha troops." "Feng Yisheng?" Jigong called out from where he was cooking inside. "What do you mean no one remembers?" "Chuan Er. Both of General Feng's sons died on the battlefield. But he later adopted a son, my Daga." "Shifu's eldest brother?" Shen Zichuan asked as he scooped rice into bowls. "I forgot to tell you." Jigong smacked his forehead. "Is the food ready?" Grand Mentor Qi yelled. "Aye, isn't his eldest brother Zuo Qianqiu?" "What's there to tell? Anyone could guess." Shen Zichuan brought the dishes and laid out chopsticks for Grand Mentor Qi. Dinner is ready, Xiancheng, he said respectfully. Grand Mentor Qi gulped down a mouthful of wine. Being waited on like this really is the most satisfying feeling. Jigong wiped sweat from his brow and sat across the small table from them. You were saying Xiao Er told you he hails from the same martial lineage as us. I'm afraid his Shifu must be Zuo Qianqiu. Shen Zichuan listened as he ate. I haven't seen him in years, Jigong lamented. Did you exchange blows with Xiao Er this time? How did it go? Were the strokes of his blade strong and forceful? I could say something, but I won't. Let Lanzhou eat first, Grand Mentor Qi said. We'll talk once we're full. This was a dangerous situation, but we don't need to rush into our next steps. We can rest for a few days. I should have known, Jigong said. Xiao Er wore a bone thumb ring. If anyone in the world knows how to wield a heavy bow, it's Zuo Qianqiu. Perhaps you'll be able to meet your Daga now that Xiao Fengshu is in the capital, Grand Mentor Qi commented, picking at the dishes on the table. Zuo Qianqiu gave everything he had at Tianfei Watchtower. He warded off the Biansha horsemen, but it cost him his wife. That battle earned him the moniker Thunder on Jade Terraces, but he never recovered from it. Rumor was that he left home to become a monk. It's not impossible that he instead buried his name and took refuge with Xiao Fengshu and has been teaching his son all these years. A general's success is built upon the sacrifice of tens of thousands, Jigong said sorrowfully. So what if he's renowned for his exploits on the field? In the end, he'll still become no more than a handful of yellow sand. Those who die in battle are loyal to the end. Those who survive suffer onward. Zuo Qianqiu buried his name. Xiao Fengshu has stepped down because of illness, and Lu Pingyan has grown old. 20 years from now, where will the current 4 generals be? They're all but waves crashing on the shore, each generation overtaking the last. Grand Mentor Qi had become slightly tipsy as he watched Shen Zichuan eat. After a time, he said, "What a waste, to come into this world and suffer a lifetime for naught. We will all of us die, so why not reach for the heavens and realize our ambitions before the time comes? Here, Lanzhou, have another bowl." By the time they had eaten and drunk their fill, night had descended. Grand Mentor Qi lay on a mat under the eaves, while Shen Zichuan sat and wiped his teacher's feet. Jigong draped outer robes over each of them, then squatted in the corner to smoke his pipe. Resting his head on a papaya, Grand Mentor Qi said, "Lanzhou, tell me again what happened at the hunting grounds." Shen Zichuan repeated his detailed account. Grand Mentor Qi listened with his eyes closed. He was still silent when Shen Zichuan finished. The vines in the courtyard basked in the downpour, each drop pattering onto the leaves. After the rain had drummed uninterrupted for some time, Grand Mentor Qi finally spoke. On the surface, Xiao Er seems to have come out of this battle covered in glory, but he is caught in the same snare that trapped his father and elder brother. The new emperor has called him friend for 5 years, yet Xiao Chuye concealed his true character so deeply for so long. How could anyone not be wary of him now? Today, the new emperor warmly remembers the kindness Xiao Chuye did him in saving his life. But how much can this friendship endure until it's worn away to nothing? I had imagined the second young master would be able to hide it a little longer, given his demonstrable endurance. There were countless ways he could have let Qi Juyin take the lead here, yet he had to do it himself. Ji Gong knocked off some ash under the dim light. The wolf pup wants to go home. All he dreams of are the grasslands of Li Bei. How old is he? This kind of spirit is the essence of youth. A little impatience upsets great plans, Grand Mentor Qi said. Had he endured it this time, wouldn't he even now be returning home as a scoundrel young master? At that very moment, Xiao Qiye was standing outside the palace gates, gazing up at the rooftops cast in shadow. The overhanging eaves of these vermilion walls seemed a trial given to him by the heavens. Beneath his frivolous mask, a ferocious beast writhed and howled in silence. In the Temple of Guilt, Shen Zichuan suddenly, strangely, understood the meaning behind Xiao Qiye's actions. He wanted to go home. He wanted to go home, proudly and honestly, as himself. Oh, blue. Okay, I gotta drink twice. Xiao Qiye equals wolf pup, drink. And Xiao Qiye equals ferocious beast, drink. We will be drinking a lot. Also, you're right. He didn't want to know everything that happened. Elsie having Gumong flashbacks. Oh no, you're so right. I hope no one heard my like spine pop when I leaned my head back there, because that was loud in my ears. I don't know if my mic picked it up, but I'm good. You know, just back problems. Let's see. It's 3:48. So I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 28 and then take a break. So we're on page 281 for chapter 28. Drunk in the Alley. Is Xiao Qiye going to be drunk again? Are we going to have drunk antics again? Are we just the back and neck popping squad? You know, just our spines. Yeah, spine popping solidarity. The autumn rain in Chudu had fallen without cease since the new emperor's coronation. White mourning lanterns hung high beneath the old black tiles. Were someone to stand atop the wall overlooking the city, they would have seen a bleak chill shrouding every corner. After the events of the autumn hunt, every member of the embroidered uniform guard had their authority tokens revoked. All those of 5th rank and above, such as Ji Lei and Chao Tianya, were imprisoned. Together with Hua Siqian and Pan Rugui, they were due to face a joint trial by the 3 judicial offices. Xue Xiuzhuo was transferred out of the Office of Scrutiny for Revenue and promoted to Assistant Minister in the Court of Judicial Review. This new position appeared to have less authority than the Chief Supervising Secretary of the Office of Scrutiny for Revenue, but in truth, it gave him an inroad to the central administration of the 3 judicial offices. Now, he not only had the authority to examine any case reviews, but also the power to participate in the deliberations and rebuttals of proposals from the Ministry of Justice and the Chief Surveillance Bureau. How many bureaus do you need? Xue Xiuzhuo, Empress Dowager Hua reclined on her settee, idly tapping a black jade weiqi piece against the board. I had never heard of this child before the Nanlin hunting grounds incident. Who is he to the Xue clan? Fanning the incense burner, Aunt Liu Xiang answered, "Your Majesty, he is the third son of common birth in the Xue clan. This lowly one had also never heard this man's name and went specifically to inquire about him. It appears the Xue clan has found a worthy successor," the Empress Dowager said. "All these years, Yao Wenyu has been the one garnering renown. I thought that old fox, Hai Gang Yi, would eventually recommend the boy into the Grand Secretariat. Who would have expected him to put the unremarkable Xue Xiuzhuo forward instead?" This Xue Xiuzhuo first joined forces with the Provincial Administration Commissioner of Jueshi, Jiang Qingshan, to secretly gather evidence, then secured the support of Secretariat Elder Hai, Aunt Liu Xiang said. "The names here are going to kill me." As the Chief Supervising Secretary of the Office of Scrutiny for Revenue, he had full access to the 6 ministries. Now that he's been promoted to Assistant Minister of the Court of Judicial Review, he'll be hearing the case of our Secretariat Elder Hua. I fear he's made up his mind to see it through. He will not let the matter go easily. I can't go out at the moment. The Empress Dowager looked contemplative. If Xue Xiuzhuo wishes to investigate, then let him. The Hua clan is at a critical juncture. Go tell my brother he needs to be ready and cut his losses if we have any hope of staging a comeback." Aunt Liu Xiang murmured in acknowledgement and quietly withdrew. Henry, it's like Tang Jiuqing can hear you. She drops another one whenever you admit to struggling. Exactly. Authors can smell fear. Shen Zichuan shook rainwater off his umbrella and took a seat on the run-down veranda of the deserted courtyard. Less than an hour later, Shi Hongshuan's monumental figure appeared beneath an umbrella as he strode through the round arch of the moon gate and approached. Spies abound these days. I barely managed to slip away. Shi Hongshuan gathered up his wet clothes and frowned. Did you call me here for something urgent? Shi Guan is in prison, Shen Zichuan said. Your long-cherished wish is about to be realized, yet you've made no move to secure your victory. Are you waiting for him to take desperate action and foil your plans? His death warrant is all but signed, Shi Hongshuan said. Any further move now would be as redundant as drawing legs on a snake. Nothing in this world is certain. There was no trace of a smile on Shen Zichuan's fair face. The more critical the situation, the less you can afford to be negligent. As long as he lives, there's a chance he'll survive this. Shi Hongshuan studied his side profile. The case of the Hua faction has already been handed over to the 3 judicial offices. Under so many watchful eyes, how do you plan to make your move? I'm not making any moves. Shen Zichuan glanced over. Shi Guan has been the Hua clan's lackey for years. His crimes while in office are too numerous to count. But only if the right ones are handed over to the Court of Judicial Review will his death be etched in stone. Bearing arms before the Emperor, surrounding and hunting down the successor to the crown, are these 2 alone not enough to put him to death? As the military commissioner of the 8 great battalions, it's his prerogative to bear arms before the throne. The hunt for the crown prince has nothing to do with him. He could simply claim he headed back to the capital for reinforcements upon seeing things go awry. The new emperor is wary of the imperial army. He has taken down the Hua clan, yes, but this is precisely the time he needs the help and cooperation of the other 8 great clans. Oh, Nina, I'm sorry you have to go. I, I hope the dog is okay. When it comes to this, he is timid, but the longer it drags on, the harder it will be to guarantee the death of Shi Guan. Chen Zichuan smirked. And as long as Shi Guan lives, you will remain Shi R, second in line, never stepping into the light. At length, Shi Hongshuan asked, "What do you plan to do?" Shi Guan was assigned to the 8 Great Battalions in the 4th year of Xiande. In the 4 years since, the 8 Great Battalions have received a total of 9 million taels in military funds and provisions, yet only 7 million of the disbursement is accounted for. What of the remaining 2 million taels? Shen Zichuan asked. They disappeared after passing through Shi Guan's hands. Audits of the account books were always Xue Xiujuo's job, he continued. Once he checks, he will very likely uncover even more missing funds. Pan Rugui and Hua Siqian might take such a large sum for themselves. They are greedy and corrupt. But Shi Guan cannot afford to be merely greedy or corrupt. He holds the reins of the 8 Great Battalions, whose key task is to patrol and defend Chudu. If he can't explain where the money went, one must suspect him of embezzling funds to raise and pay his own private army under the aegis of the 8 Great Battalions. His own private army. A chill ran down Shi Hongshuan's spine. He stands at the bedside of the Son of Heaven. What other reason is there for him to raise such an army? Shen Zichuan said. No way. Shi Hongshuan vetoed it. He wiped sweat off his face. Do you think me mad? If it's only a question of associating with the Hua faction, he's the one who dies. But if it's treason, my whole family dies. This is a crime punishable by extermination of the entire clan. Well, Shen Zichuan did, face that threat earlier. Shen Zichuan laughed aloud, then lowered his voice. A change of sovereign brings a change of ministers. This is a precious opportunity for you to distinguish yourself before the new emperor. Shi Guan is giving you his life as a congratulatory gift for your promotion. You want me to... Shi Hongshuan stared at Chen Zichuan and burst out laughing. You certainly are ruthless. The Empress Dowager has saved your life twice. You really have no regard for the kindness shown to you. Kindness, huh? Shen Zichuan picked up his umbrella. It's not too late to repay it after the kill. Besides, this is a power game between Xiao and Hua. What does it have to do with me? With that, he opened his umbrella, nodded to Shi Hongshuan, and stepped into the rainy night. Shi Hongshuan was left alone on the veranda, watching Shen Zichuan disappear. When he touched his back, he found it drenched in cold sweat. Aegis comes from the ancient Greek word for goatskin shield. Oh, that's cool. Am I saying it right? A few days later, the Court of Judicial Review began the serious trials of the autumn hunt. Oh yay, I said it right. Jiang Xie, the chief minister of the Court of Judicial Review, served as the presiding judge, while Hai Liangyi served as the overseeing supervisor, and Xue Xiujuo an associate judge. This was a major case examined and prosecuted by the Chief Surveillance Bureau, submitted to the Court of Judicial Review with the criminal charges of formation of political factions, embezzlement and corruption, and endangerment of the state. Of these, the charge of formation of political factions caused some small panic among civil servants in the 6 ministries. All those who had paid visits to the Hua Manor, or had received recommendations from Hua Siqian and Pan Rugui, found themselves in a precarious position. Countless officials scrambled to submit memorials criticizing Hua Siqian and Pan Rugui, each hoping to avoid implication with an impassioned statement of loyalty. Unfortunately, memorials of any kind gave Li Jianheng a headache. He had never been one to sit still for long periods. Even so, he didn't dare mess about during a time of national mourning. He had seen the way Hai Liangyi confronted Hua Siqian that night, and was, as a consequence, very much afraid of the man. Secretariat Elder Hai was rigid and inflexible. His neatly trimmed beard always hung properly before the second clasp on the front of his robe. His crown was always perfectly placed, and his hair meticulously combed. During the dog days of summer, he would never let his robe hang open even in his own home, and in the coldest winter months, he would never warm his hands in opposite sleeves when going to court. When he stood, he was a tall pine tree on the mountain ridge, and when he walked, he was the swift wind blowing through a tranquil valley. He was never sloppy in his work, and could listen attentively to details of a case for 3 days and 3 nights without showing any sign of weariness. Can I just say, I love this. This was a great, just 1 paragraph characterization. Just like, it's very memorable. It's very, I don't know. I'm just like, yeah, I know who this guy is now. Like, for real, for real. Li Jianheng spent all his days fooling around. He went weak at the knees at the sight of upright and scholarly ministers like this. But because of the Hua faction case, Hai Liangyi was constantly seeking him out to report various details. Li Jianheng had found the dragon throne in Mingli Hall so hard that his... Wait, let me restart that. Li Jianheng had found the dragon throne in Mingli Hall so hard that his behind hurt from prolonged sitting, so he ordered several layers of soft padding. When Hai Liangyi saw it, he roundly chastised him, advising him to be steadfast in character. The heady thrill of having power within his grasp was fleeting as a flake of snow. What had followed was an avalanche of responsibilities. Li Jianheng found it difficult to keep up with the never-ending morning court sessions. He looked down every day from the dragon throne, yet often didn't understand what the people below him were arguing about. No money? Collect taxes, then. Kill some corrupt officials. That way the money could be recovered, no? What's there to argue about? Li Jianheng didn't dare reveal these innermost thoughts. He feared Hai Liangyi, and feared even more these civil servants and military commanders. He didn't understand what they fought over, or why the Hua faction could not be executed immediately, and least of all, why the Empress Dowager was sending him snacks every day. He curled up on the dragon throne, as if this was all merely a dream. Is His Majesty ill? Xiao Chuye, on his way to answer a summons, entered the palace and ran straight into an imperial physician outside Mingli Hall. His mind is plagued with worry, and the autumn chill has gotten to him, the physician said. When you see His Majesty, you must counsel him, my lord. Xiao Chuye set Wolf's Fang aside before striding into Mingli Hall. Li Jianheng had just taken some medicine and was staring into space on his settee. On hearing that Xiao Chuye had come, he hurriedly slipped on his shoes and called him in. "Sa'an," Li Jianheng said, "you're just in time. The bakery will be sending some silk-nested tiger's eye candy later. You should try it too. We had it at that official's banquet a few years ago. Xiao Chuye kowtowed. Thank you, Your Majesty, for the gift. His emperor's robes draped around him. Li Jianheng went silent for a moment. Take a seat, Tse-an. Xiao Chuye sat, and those serving at the sides of the hall withdrew. Li Jianheng stood and restlessly turned in several tight circles on the spot. Tse-an, why aren't they beheading Hua Siqian yet? The Court of Judicial Review is talking about a retrial. What more is there to try? Ugh. The Court of Judicial Review has to triple-check every case, Xiao Chuye explained patiently. This is the rule to prevent miscarriage of justice. The evidence against Hua Siqian is conclusive. No doubt he will be executed before the new year. A long night is fraught with dreams. Drag something on long enough, and complications arise, Li Jianheng said nervously. The Empress Dowager doesn't look like she's panicking to me. Did you know? She sends people to deliver snacks to me every day. What does she want? Does she plan to poison me to death? And that's always a prime possibility. The Hua clan is the target of public condemnation, so the Empress Dowager is putting on a show of maternal affection. Seeing Li Jianheng's flustered expression and the dark circles under his eyes, Xiao Chuye asked, Is Your Majesty not sleeping well? How can I sleep? Said Li Jianheng. As long as they live, how would I be able to sleep? Tse-an, how about this? Why don't you go tell Hai Liangyi on my behalf to skip the retrial and carry out the execution on the spot? But how could he do such a thing? Xiao Chuye was the supreme commander of the imperial army. He had no involvement with the 3 judicial offices, so how could he interfere in the judicial process? Moreover, after what happened at the autumn hunt, the person who posed the next greatest danger was Xiao Chuye himself. The civil officials, with Hai Liangyi at the helm, were unwilling to let Xiao Chuye go. Even Xiao Fengshu had gotten wind of this attitude in the past days. No one was willing to gamble when it came to this matter. Only with Xiao Chuye safe in Chudu could Li Bei be counted on. The plight of the 6 prefectures of Zhongbo remained a sore spot. Xiao Jiming could save Chudu once or twice, but could he save Chudu countless times without reservation? Even if he swore he would, who would believe it? Xiao Chuye ought definitely to avoid any disputes with ministers at this point. Even as Li Jianheng said it, he knew it wouldn't work. He became more dispirited by the minute. When the silk-nested tiger's eye candy finally arrived, he took a few cursory bites but tasted nothing. After Xiao Chuye left, Li Jianheng lay sprawled across the settee, thinking what a rotten deal it was to be an emperor. Shuanglu, a eunuch who had served him since he ascended the throne, knelt at his feet and whispered, Your Majesty, how about this lowly one accompanies you for a stroll outside? Not going, Li Jianheng replied. We're tired. The eunuch suddenly seized upon an idea. Then why not invite Miss Mu-Ru to play the pipa? Li Jianheng turned over and glanced toward the open doors of the hall. Seeing no one, he asked, hesitant, Seems inappropriate, no? The nation is officially in mourning. Besides, she's still in Pan Rugui's manor. Wouldn't we be reproached for bringing her into the palace right now? Shuanglu giggled. Your Majesty, you are the emperor. You have the final say within the palace. How would those outside officials know what we in the inner palace are up to? We'll do it on the sly. Li Jianheng instantly felt his spirit soar. He set aside the candy and asked, Secretariat Elder Hai won't know? No one will know. Shuanglu shuffled forward on his knees. You are our master, not him. When we lowly servants run errands, if your majesty doesn't want someone to know about them, they will certainly never know. Great. Li Jianheng clapped his hands. Great. Finally, an opportunity. Go quickly. The sooner the better. Bring Mu Ru in. Since Pan Rugui is about to die, remaining in that compound will only bring her bad luck. Well, I don't know if that was the best decision. It was raining again when Xiao Chuye left the palace. He was vexed, though he couldn't say why. The zeal and drive he had before the autumn hunt seemed to have dissipated overnight. He didn't even feel like drawing his blade. Chen Yang and Zhao Hui had come to pick him up, and Xiao Chuye stepped through the rain and into the carriage. Halfway through the journey, Xiao Chuye abruptly lifted the curtain and said, "Tell my father and brother I won't be back tonight." Without waiting for a response, he jumped out of the carriage and headed for Donglong Street, taking nothing with him. Zhao Hui got off the carriage behind him. He's gone drinking again, he told Chen Yang. You head back and inform the prince and heir. I'll follow him. It won't look good if he gets drunk and makes a scene during a time of national mourning. In the time it took you to say that, you lost him, Chen Yang said. His Excellency doesn't want anyone to follow. You had best let him be. Xiao Jiming had mentored Zhao Hui as his deputy general, while Xiao Chuye had trained Chen Yang to be his. Perhaps it was no surprise that Zhao Hui was more like an older brother. Though both were members of the Xiao clan, the subjects of their consideration were ultimately different. Zhao Hui turned, and sure enough, the rain had already washed away any sign of Xiao Chuye. The embroidered uniform guard, having had their authority tokens revoked, were all temporarily assigned to the Imperial Army to serve on patrols. Shen Zichuan had just finished his rounds for the night, and was walking home through the alley behind Xiangyun Villa on Donglong Street. I wonder who he's going to see. The rain was coming down in a light drizzle, and he hadn't bothered to open his umbrella. From up ahead, he suddenly heard the sound of retching. A courtesan wearing wooden clogs and no socks trotted out in pursuit, and was gently fended off by the man bent over in the alley. Xiao Chuye propped himself against the wall and pointed at the back door, motioning for the woman to stay back. The courtesans of Xiangyun Villa were well acquainted with his habits. She knew he wouldn't let others touch him while drunk, so she merely folded a handkerchief and laid it at the side. Come back in once you feel better, Argongza. I'll prepare some hot soup for you, she said quietly. Xiao Chuye did not respond. When the sound of wooden clogs had receded into the distance, he squatted down. His stomach was churning unbearably. This was how a man should live: eat, drink, and make merry until you fell into a stupor. It was his only way out. He felt a sudden weight on his back. Xiao Chuye looked over his shoulder with a stare so cold it froze the blood. On seeing who had touched him, he thought for a moment before saying, "Why did you kick me?" "I didn't," Shen Zichuan replied without blinking. Xiao Chuye reached behind and touched his own back, then tugged on his clothes. He insisted stubbornly, "This is evidence of your guilt." Shen Zichuan studied him. "Have you drunk yourself foolish, Xiao R?" "Do I look like a fool?" Xiao Chuye demanded. He answered himself without waiting for a reply. "I'm not a fool." Smelling the wine on him, Shen Zichuan said, "Don't block my way. I want to go home." Xiao Chuye looked away and stared blankly for a moment before saying to the wall, "Don't block my way." I want to go home too. Shen Zichuan was about to laugh when he heard him continue. If I can't go home, then you can forget about going home as well. That's the end of the chapter. We're gonna... Oh, it's a little late for break. We're gonna take a break. And when we come back, we're gonna be on page 293 for chapter 29, which is titled Fate. We've been talking about fate. I guess we're really going to be talking about fate now. Elsie, I also hope he stops drinking. What did he say about, like, oh, this is what it means to be a man? And I'm just like, no, sir. No, it just means you're depressed. There should be music in the little break thing today. I'm really hoping it works. So please tell me if you can hear the music, and I will be back in 5 to 10 minutes. Hi, hello. I have returned. I'm glad y'all liked the music. It was literally just like the first few kind of chill things I could find. Um, and oh, Henry, what are you crafting? What's, Blue, you said not the crafting reference in the year of our Lord 2025, and I'm like, I don't know what that means. I just assumed crafting means crafting. Oh my god, anklets for Ansel. Oh my god. Incredible. I would love to see them in Discord when you're done, or like a work in progress. I feel like I need to learn how to just like make things in general for cosplay reasons also. Like for one, I mean, I can't sew worth a damn, but just general crafting skills, not really there at the moment. Dan and Phil made a satanic prank craft channel with the motto, "Don't cry, craft." Oh, okay. That was the reference. Okay. Good to know. I never watched Dan and Phil for some reason. I guess it's not too late to go find some of those old videos and like inform myself. Um, so we are on page 293 for chapter 29, Fate. I'm very excited about this chapter title. Ah, Shen Zichuan said. That wasn't the response Xiao Chuye wanted. He looked back at him and asked, "Why aren't you arguing?" Shen Zichuan opened his umbrella. "I have neither family nor friends back there. Why would I want to return?" Xiao Chuye picked up the handkerchief and wiped rain off the back of his neck before rising. Right. They already got rid of the Prince of Jianxing's manor in Dunzhou. Being who you are, you'll be cursed by the whole prefecture if you go back. In this life, here, Shen Zichuan looked at Xiao Chuye quietly for a moment. You will suffer for being born into the wrong family. Xiao Chuye didn't look at him as he brushed away raindrops on his forehead. Then why are you still alive? Shen Zichuan smiled. Millions of people want me dead, but how could I rest easy if I bowed to the wishes of others? If you want to survive, you should have remained in the Temple of Guilt. Taking 2 steps to avoid the puddle on the ground, Shen Zichuan answered, If I remained there, you would still try to see me executed. Xiao Chuye, even if you try to hide it, you are used to looking down from above. You are no different from the people who look down on you today, though all those eyes must agonize you. He laughed and patted Xiao Chuye on the back. I seek to live. You seek to die. The Xiao clan once trapped me, and now the Li family does the same to you. Are not the ways of this world strange? The bird in the cage longs for its former woods, while the fish in the pond misses its familiar deep. There's a footnote. This is from the poem Return to Nature or the Fields, Part 1, by Tao Yuanming, also known as the Poet of the Fields. Your lot in life has been laid out from the beginning. If you can't go home, you are nothing but a husk, with nothing but hollow aspirations. The most devastating thing in the world is to train a wolf into a dog. How long can your fangs remain sharp in Chudu? Xiao Chuye turned to look at him. You followed me during the autumn hunt and saved my life. What, all for this moment of gratification? I am an insignificant nobody, Shen Zichuan said softly. Even if I didn't show up, you would have survived. What are you up to? Xiao Chuye's inebriation had worn off. Repaying a debt of gratitude. They stood so close that the brim of Shen Zichuan's umbrella sheltered Xiao Chuye. repaying all of you for your mercy in not killing me. Xiao Chuye suddenly grabbed Shen Zichuan by the collar. I thought you had repented and turned over a new leaf. What have I done wrong? The glint in Shen Zichuan's eyes was chillier than the autumn rain. He closed in, almost pressing up against Xiao Chuye, and asked, What is my crime? Did you not spare a look at the cities of Duanzhou when you climbed your way out of the Chasha sinkhole? Xiao Chuye tightened his grip. The 8 cities were massacred. When our horses galloped through the city gates, the blood that splashed under their hooves was the blood of the people. Shen Wei's troops were defeated. Shen Zichuan at last tore off his mask, exposing his burning hatred. 30,000 men of Zhongbo were buried in the Chasha sinkhole. I lost my elder brother and Xunyang that same day. Why am I to blame? Shen Wei deserved to be killed. Xiao Chuye, too, had lost control. He shoved Shen Zichuan backward. Shen Wei deserved death. You are a Shen. How can you be without blame? The oil paper umbrella tumbled to the ground as Shen Zichuan was slammed against the wall in Xiao Chuye's grip, his toes barely touching the ground. He drew his knee in and stomped on Xiao Chuye's chest. Xiao Chuye retreated a few steps in pain, but didn't loosen his hold. Pulling Shen Zichuan by the collar, he flung him to the ground. Oh, I forgot. The wolf dog. Xiao Chuye equals wolf dog. Got a drink. We are so hydrated. You are correct, Blue. The drizzle quickly intensified into a downpour. A series of crashes rang out from the dark lane as odds and ends were overturned and trampled underfoot. Inside Xiangyun Villa, the commotion startled the courtesans who had been waiting for Xiao Chuye. They clung to the doorframe and peered out with their wooden clogs in their hands. What's all this? Xiangyun, the madam of the house, hastily draped a robe over her shoulders and slipped on her wooden clogs before rushing over. My dear lords, let's have a civilized discussion. This isn't worth coming to blows over. Shen Zichuan straddled Xiao Chuye and landed a punch that knocked his head to the side. Xiao Chuye grabbed Shen Zichuan's wrist and tugged him hard toward himself. Running his tongue over bloody teeth, he said, Neither you nor I can dream of having an easy time. Xiang Yun had already called for her attendants, who joined forces to drag the two apart. Xiao Chuye jerked his arms free, and those strapping footmen felt their hands go numb. Yet he did not pounce again. He wiped his fingers over the broken skin on his face and snapped, Piss off. Xiang Yun saw things had gotten out of hand. With quick motions, she instructed the footmen to hurry to the prince's manor for help. But before they could move, Xiao Chuye said, I'll break the legs of whoever dares to alert my father. Xiang Yun followed his lead and softened her voice. What's this about, then? Our Gongzi has always shown tenderness toward the fairer sex. Why have you frightened the ladies tonight? It is common for gentlemen to disagree after a few drinks. Let's bury the hatchet with a smile, all right? Xiao Chuye rose to his feet, stripped off his dirty outer robe, and threw it to Xiang Yun. You go in. Clutching the robe, Xiang Yun attempted again to persuade him. Our Gongzi, it's so cold outside. But her voice trailed off as her courage waned. She waved her hand discreetly at the courtesans and led them back inside. The door was left slightly ajar, and girls clung to its side and crowded at the windows to steal a peek. Shen Zichuan picked up the umbrella. His clothes were filthy. Strands of dark hair, wet from the rain, stuck to his cheeks and made his fair skin look all the paler. Next time, Shen Zichuan said, come to my door if you're looking for me. I won't pass through this alley again, even in 800 years. If I knew you'd be passing by, Xiao Chuye retorted, I'd rather have puked inside than come out here. Shen Zichuan smirked. It must really be a small world for enemies to meet on such a narrow path. When two meet on a narrow path, the best man triumphs. Xiao Chuye took a step up to him. I'll be watching you closely from now on. You can hardly look after yourself, yet you still find time to worry about me? Shen Zichuan raised his umbrella to put some distance between them. An insect with 100 legs won't fall even in death. One autumn hunt, and you think you've brought the Hua clan to their knees? You really are delusional. You had best think about preserving your own life. Xiao Chuye pressed his chest against the edge of the umbrella and looked skeptically at him. How long can you live without the backing of the Empress Dowager? A new master sits in the imperial court, Shen Zichuan said. Isn't it time to change these old assumptions of who holds the power? But you can't kill anyone, Xiao Chuye said. The ones who've wronged you are the Biansha horsemen and Shen Wei. Whatever you say. Shen Zichuan once again let the veneer of docility settle over him like a coat. He drew his umbrella back and said gently to Xiao Chuye, I'll listen to you, okay? That inscrutable rage within Xiao Chuye surged. Sure you will. Then you're staying with me tonight. You sleep under the bed canopy of a sweet, tender lady, Shen Zichuan said. Yet you want to share it with another man. I'm sorry, but I don't have that kind of predilection. No matter how Xiao Chuye looked at Shen Zichuan, this man was up to no good. So you're running now. What happened to whatever I say? Are you, Shen Zichuan pointed at his head, out of your mind? All the idlers in the embroidered uniform guard are under command of the Imperial Army, Xiao Chuye reminded him. Who's the one out of his mind? Shen Zichuan paused for a moment before responding. What would Your Excellency like me to do? The red imprint of Shen Zichuan's fist was still stark on Xiao Chuye's cheek. The hostility between his brows eased, and he took on the countenance of a lazy slacker. He turned to sit on the platform beneath the eaves and pointed to his boots. The corners of Shen Zichuan's lips curled. Sure. There's a scene break. What do you mean? There's just a scene break after that. What happened? What? Early the next morning, when Chen Yang came to retrieve Xiao Chuye, he was stunned to see Shen Zichuan hugging Wolfsfang at the entrance of Xiangyun Villa on Donglong Street. Shen Zichuan, who had been leaning against the door, straightened and bowed a greeting toward Chen Yang. Chen Yang instantly had a bad feeling. Shen, what is the Scarlet Cavalry doing here? Jilei remains in prison and has not yet been sentenced, Shen Zichuan said. The embroidered uniform guard is temporarily serving as part of the Imperial Army under the Supreme Commander's orders. Taking in his calm mien, Chen Yang felt a chill down his spine. He dipped his chin in a slight nod and bounded up the stairs. Shen Zichuan watched him go up. At the same time, Xiang Yun was coming down with the hem of her skirt in her hand. You haven't eaten yet, right? She asked sympathetically. You haven't changed out of those dirty clothes of yours either. Ling Ting. A woman upstairs leaned against the railing and said wearily, Why are you still calling for Ling Ting? That girl's already paid her debt and been redeemed. It dawned on Xiang Yun as she spoke. Well, I've gotten used to calling for her. Bring some food for this gentleman from the Scarlet Cavalry. Upstairs, Xiao Chuye was sprawled on the settee, sleeping, with no one to attend him. Chen Yong entered and called softly, "My lord." Xiao Chuye groggily buried his face in the blanket and dozed for a moment longer. Then he suddenly sat up. "Why are you here? Where is Shen Lanzhou?" "He's keeping watch downstairs." "Your Excellency, what happened to your face?" Chen Yong asked in astonishment. "Got punched while I was hunting." Xiao Chuye stood and stretched his shoulders and arms. "Did Daga ask you to come for me?" "It was his lordship the prince," Chen Yong clarified. "We received information early this morning. Biansha horsemen raided the Shaqiu trade market last night. We need to enter the palace to discuss this matter in detail. Secretariat Elder Hai has convened the Ministry of War and the Ministry of Revenue. Li Bei will have to deploy troops again." Xiao Chuye gave his face a cursory wipe with some water and stepped out the door. As he descended the stairs, he saw Shen Zichuan standing with a courtesan. He strode down the last few steps and reached over them to grab a small plate, then tossed a pastry into his mouth. Shen Zichuan looked up. "Slow down. No one can save you if you choke." Xiao Chuye swallowed the mouthful and grinned at him. Slinging an arm around his shoulder, he led him outside. "Oh, Lanzhou." Shen Zichuan stared at him. "Why do you hold a grudge overnight?" Xiao Chuye asked wistfully. "After a good night's sleep, I've forgotten all about it. Come on. Our Gongza will take you to have some fun." Shen Zichuan swatted Xiao Chuye's hand away with his own scabbard. "Our Gongza. Don't take advantage to touch the back of my neck." Mingli Hall was full. Li Jianheng remained seated on the dragon throne, not daring to move a muscle. His eyes landed first on Hai Liangyi in an attempt to scrutinize his expression, before shifting to the others, all the while doing his best to look dignified and imposing. Seeing as the Director of Writ at the Directorate of Ceremonial Affairs position is vacant, before signing off on them, this aged subject will present the various ministries' accounts directly to His Majesty once they are sent to the Grand Secretariat, Hai Liangyi began. "What does your Majesty think of the accounts from last night?" Li Jianheng had spent the night listening to peepaw music with a beautiful woman in his arms. When Hai Liangyi kowtowed to him, he shifted his buttocks guiltily and said, "They look good. It's all good." Oh no. Xue Xiuzhuo, who had been kneeling expressionlessly behind Hai Liangyi, furrowed his brow. Hai Liangyi waited, but when it was clear Li Jianheng had no intention of saying anything further, he turned to Xiao Fengshu. "This autumn is cold, and the frost comes apace. If Li Bei is to deploy troops, they must report to Chudu the military salaries and provisions required in advance. Your lordship, how much do you need this time?" Xiao Fengshu smiled. "I have been ill and out of commission for quite a while. All military affairs have long since been entrusted to Jiming. Jiming, tell Secretariat Elder Hai what money we lack." Xiao Jiming kowtowed. The Biansha tribes raided the market now because winter snow is about to fall. The various tribes have exhausted their stores of grain, so they plunder the trade market. In prior years, the military fields were sufficient to furnish our provisions, and Li Bei would not need assistance with army supplies. But with the late emperor so recently passed, the Biansha tribes are likely planning to take advantage of our vulnerability. If we mobilize troops, we must not only expel them from our territory, but be prepared to guard the border for as long as it takes. I have already submitted the required sum to the Ministry of Revenue. The newly appointed Minister of Revenue produced the memorial, and Shuang Lu presented it to Li Jianheng. Li Jianheng looked at it for a moment. 1,200,000 taels. What's so hard about that? What's important is that our soldiers don't go cold and hungry." The Minister of Revenue, Qian Jin, looked embarrassed. "Your Majesty may not be aware, but we have yet to make up for last year's deficit. The state treasury cannot make that sum available on such short notice." Then, Li Jianheng said, "Just 1 million taels should be fine, right?" Tianjin kowtowed. "During the autumn hunt, the mobilization of the 8 great battalions cost us 230,000 taels, and the late emperor's funeral rites required 540,000 taels. The remaining funds in the state treasury must be used to pay out salary arrears to the officials in Chudu. The end of the year will soon be upon us, and the civil officials all need to celebrate New Year's. We definitely do not have 1 million taels, Your Majesty. We have but 600,000 taels to give the Libei armored cavalry." Li Jianheng truly never expected to be poor as an emperor. He had wanted to do Libei a favor, and in doing so placate Xiao Chuye. Who would have thought he would be so broke? This sudden revelation put him in such an awkward spot. He wanted to dig his way under the table. Instead, he mustered a few vague sounds of acknowledgement. A hush fell over Mingli Hall. It was Xue Xiuzhuo who spoke up. "Your Majesty, this humble subject has a suggestion." Li Jianheng looked at this man as though he was seeing his savior. "Speak, please speak." "When the Hua faction was in power, they put a price on sinecures and welcomed anyone who could pay up," Xue Xiuzhuo began. "The ice respects bribes they collected every year were large sums. And Pan Rugui took advantage of loopholes in procurement to blatantly amass wealth for himself. Both men are now in prison. Why not search both the Hua and Pan residences and confiscate their possessions to subsidize this military effort? As for the Shi clan, their second young master, Shi Hongxun, has already made what amends he could and submitted a report to the Court of Judicial Review just yesterday to accuse Shi Guan of keeping his own private army. He even leased out the Shi clan's residence in Chudu to repay the money that went missing within the 8 great battalions while Shi Guan was in office. When Li Jianheng heard this idea of raiding the residences, he instantly showed interest. He said eager, "Sure, we've been long wanting to do this." Hai Liangyi hesitated. This would be inappropriate. The Court of Judicial Review's retrial has not yet concluded. How can we bypass the law to mete out the sentence? "It's an emergency," Xue Xiuzhuo countered. "We don't have a choice. Chudu may wait for the retrial, but the Biansha horsemen will not. We cannot let the Libei armored cavalry fight a war on empty stomachs." Hai Liangyi still wavered, but Li Jianheng had already given his approval. When they finally left the hall, Xiao Jiming asked Qi Juyin, who had been silent the whole time, "How is the Bianjun commandery holding up?" Qi Juyin looked up at the rain beyond the eaves. "As long as Lu Guangbai is in Bianjun, the Biansha tribes will not make a move there. But Libei is lacking a chief commander, which makes things tricky for you." Xiao Jiming stood for a moment and sighed. Talent on the field is hard to come by. Regardless of what passes in Chudu, it's the duty of commanders and generals to protect their home and defend their country, Qi Juyin said. "Jiming, talent is hard to come by, but it is even more difficult to cultivate. Libei is an important fortress guarding our great Zhou's frontier. It needs a successor. It will only damage you to hold off on your choice any longer." Each and every one of them had aspired to be a valiant general of the land, an impregnable fortress of the Zhou Empire. But even generals would eventually age. Tethering the lives of an army to one man could be overlooked for a few years, but let it continue for a decade, or worse, several, and the Li Bei armored cavalry would turn into a force that could not go on without Xiao Jiming. If the Li Bei armored cavalry were to lose Xiao Jiming one day with no clear successor to the command, what would become of this army and its sterling reputation that had reigned supreme on the battlefield for decades? I know you have high hopes for Aya. Qi Juyin descended the steps and turned back to look at him. But he is destined never to fly out of Chudu. Do you think he hasn't noticed the regard you hold for him all these years just because you never spoke of it? The more expectations you have for him at home, the more agony he'll be in. Li Bei is not his wings, but his cage. Jiming, you and I have been friends for many years. Let me give you a word of advice. Choose someone else. Now, that's the end of the chapter. That's interesting because we know that Xiao Chuye wants to go back to Li Bei, so I don't see why that role would cage him unless there's like a reason, like unless there's like a political implication of him taking that role that would restrict him or something like that. I don't know, but I'm sort of curious why Qi Juyin would say that. We don't really know a ton about her. She's the one who gave Wolf's Fang to Xiao Chuye, right? But we don't really, like, know her. So now I'm just like, what do you mean? What do you know? Or, like, what are you planning? Yeah, his big bro is kind of caged right now. I guess they're all kind of caged right now, in a way. Their family. Henry. It's because, according to her, he's trapped in Chudu and could never go back to Li Bei. Oh, so it would just be giving him false hope. It's like he would never be able to do it. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Like, it's just not possible. Yeah. No, I was wondering if there was some way they could make that happen, but, like, I guess they don't have that power. Some of the politics are, like, my head is spinning. So, we are reading one more chapter today. It is, on page 305, chapter 30, King of Wolves. I wonder who that could be. In the light of morning, Xiao Chuye seemed to have put his loss of composure the night before completely out of his mind. He raced his horse through the streets to cries of discontent from vendors on either side and reached the palace gate just in time to see his family's carriage still outside. Our Gongzi is here. Zhao Hui lifted the curtain for Xiao Fengshu. Resting a hand on his knee, Xiao Fengshu looked out of the carriage. His gaze swept past his younger son and landed on the man riding poorly behind him, Shen Zichuan. He paused for a moment, but said nothing. Henry, my cabbages! When Xiao Chuye arrived before him, he noticed the injury on his son's face at once. What were you up to last night? I went drinking. Riding crop in hand, Xiao Chuye reined in his horse and laughed. I lost track of time. When I woke up, it was already late. Father, are you done with the meeting? Xiao Fengshu nodded. Is that Shen Wei's son? The autumn wind blew sharply in Shen Zichuan's face. He met Xiao Fengshu's eyes and was gripped by an inexplicable shudder. Shen Zichuan tightened his grip on the reins uneasily. But Xiao Fengshu did nothing. Powdery white mixed with dark at the temples of the old king of wolves. Oh, right. Xiao Fengshu is the king of wolves, of course. Though he sat hunched in the carriage, one could make out his exceptional height and build. His commanding presence was no false front. This was a majestic dignity tempered amid a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. It was a formidable strength, embedded so deeply in blood and bone that even his recent illness could not overshadow it. Xiao Chuye's extraordinary physique was familiar now. His shocking upper body strength, remarkable height, wide shoulders and back, and long legs with their explosive speed, all were bequeathed entirely by his father. In contrast to the gentler and more elegant Xiao Jiming, Xiao Chuye was the true wolf pup. Oh, we have to drink. Are we drinking to long legs too? Or if we're drinking to long legs and also wolf, then we have to drink twice. One had only to look at the two brothers standing together to banish all doubt that Xiao Chuye was the more threatening presence. And now, this king of wolves had his gaze fixed upon Shen Zichuan. Despite having learned long ago to suppress his emotions, Shen Zichuan felt a powerful urge to flee. The feeling was utterly different from being pinned down by Xiao Chuye. This man's gaze made one shiver by sheer instinct. At once, Shen Zichuan recalled Grand Mentor Chi's words. Now that Xiao Fengshu has stepped back to convalesce, his heir's star shines bright. Everyone fears Xiao Jiming. But Lanzhou, 20 years ago, the one who secured that frontier with his steed was Xiao Fengshu. Today, Qi Shiyu's authority as the Grand Marshal of the Five Commanderies is clearly greater than Xiao Fengshu's. But he has not been conferred the title of prince. I will tell you why. Qidong is merely a bestowed fief belonging to the emperor. The Five Commanderies are all founding lands of our great Zhou that belong to the Son of Heaven. But Libei is different. The vast territory of Libei stretches from Luoxia Pass to the edge of Hongyan Mountains in the northeast. All this hard-won land was conquered inch by the Libei armored cavalry under Xiao Fengshu's personal command during the years of Yongyi. Xiao Jiming is now the commander-in-chief of Libei's armored cavalry, Iron Horse on River Ice, an awe-inspiring title. But it was Xiao Fengshu who established this unstoppable cavalry. The Libei troops do not have the long history of the Bianjun Commandery garrison troops. They are a heavy cavalry conceived by Xiao Fengshu to counter our foes during the years of Yongyi, when the Biansha horsemen repeatedly assaulted Luoxia Pass. Libei's battle steeds, Libei's soldiers, and Libei's steel broadswords with their trailing chains, every emblem of the current Libei armored cavalry, originated with Xiao Fengshu. The 8 great clans have entrenched themselves in Chudu for decades. They are sores and ulcers on the body of our great Zhou. The Xiao clan can stand as equals with the Hua clan only because of Xiao Fengshu's firm seat in Libei. As long as Xiao Fengshu lives, the Xiao clan is a towering tree, its roots digging deep into the soil of Libei. The title of the King of Wolves is by no means undeserved. Xiao Chuye looked back at Shen Zichuan and said, after a pause, "He is Shen Wei's son." Shen Zichuan dismounted and knelt to Xiao Fengshu. Xiao Fengshu appraised him for a moment. "Shen Wei is dead. Since the late emperor released you, he absolved you of your father's guilt. You are innocent and free, so why are you following this brat around?" With one knee bent and his head bowed, Shen Zichuan said, "This humble one was taken into the embroidered uniform guard. It is temporarily under the command of the Imperial Army, and I am thus at the Supreme Commander's disposal." "So I see." Xiao Fengshu looked toward Xiao Chuye. "Why are you making life difficult for him?" Xiao Chuye licked at the wound in his mouth. Why would I do such a thing? We're friends who faced death together. Isn't that right, Lanzhou? Apparently satisfied, Xiao Fengshu continued chatting with Xiao Chuye without sparing Shen Zichuan another glance. Shen Zichuan remained on one knee. He saw, reflected in a puddle on the ground, Xiao Chuye's unrestrained smile, and the way Xiao Fengshu looked at his son. Raindrops distorted the scene in the puddle. Shen Zichuan averted his eyes. Xiao Fengshu had left by the time Xiao Jiming emerged from within the palace, Qi Juyin beside him. "Who's that?" she asked abruptly. Xiao Jiming looked at the man standing beside Zhao Hui and replied, expression unchanging, "That's Shen Zichuan." Stopping in her tracks, Qi Juyin blurted, "Shen Wei's son? Why is he following Ah Ye around?" "Ah Ye has a mischievous streak," Xiao Jiming said. "He's probably just harassing him." Qi Juyin eyed Shen Zichuan for a long moment. "A remarkable beauty. I heard his mother was a dancer in Duanzhou. Lucky for us, it was Duanzhou and not the Cangjun Commandery." Grand Marshal Qi Shiyu was famously fond of beauties. He wouldn't budge an inch when a pretty woman was in sight. Her father kept countless concubines at home, though Qi Juyin had very few brothers to show for it. Speaking of which, Qi Juyin turned aside. Ah Ye is 23 this year. When is he going to get married? Yi Zhi is also anxious about that, Xiao Jiming said. Li Bei doesn't need him to marry a noble lady from a powerful clan. A girl from an ordinary, decent family will do. Yi Zhi sent portraits to Chudu every year, but not one of the Li Bei daughters she picked ever caught his fancy. Qi Juyin laughed. Noble girls are too haughty to tolerate him, and common girls are too timid. They'd be frightened at the sight of him. Besides, how many maidens can handle his temper? Finding someone he likes, who would like him back, is harder than ascending to heaven. Not to mention he spends half his nights in pleasure houses. You'd better watch it, or he'll bring a courtesan home one day. Xiao Jiming knew every one of her stepmothers had been prominent courtesans in Qidong before marrying her father. They quarreled in the inner courtyards all day long and drove the Grand Marshal mad every time she went home. She detested courtesans since youth. If he really meets someone he fancies, who can stop him? Xiao Jiming sighed. Just the thought of it made his head ache. Not even 10 bulls would be able to haul him away. You'd better prepare for rainy days. Qi Juyin thought about it for a moment. Disregard the rest if you want, but really, the girl can't have a fiery temper. Your Yi Zhi is so gentle. If he brings home someone fierce, wouldn't Yi Zhi suffer every day? Xiao Jiming laughed out loud. This is all just talk. It's much too early to worry about that. The heart is an unpredictable thing. Qi Juyin laughed too. Perhaps someday he'll see the light? Xiao Chuye felt a shiver down his spine. He threw a wary glance over his shoulder and saw Shen Zichuan looking contemplative beside Zhao Hui. Go to the Imperial Army office later and collect your token of authority. Xiao Chuye stepped in front of Shen Zichuan, blocking the light. Until the reassignment of the embroidered uniform guard is finalized, you'll attend me day and night. Day and night, Shen Zichuan repeated and looked up at him. Will I have to carry the chamber pot for our gongzi too? If you want to, sure. Xiao Chuye stepped closer. I'll be busy for the next few days, so I'll stay in the courtyard behind the Imperial Army office. Without waiting for an answer, Xiao Chuye turned to greet Xiao Jiming. Oh, Xiao Chuye is the one who felt the gay shudder down his back. Well, that was interesting, and that was a scene break. The retrial in the Court of Judicial Review still hadn't concluded by the time the Hua and Pan residences were searched and their assets seized. Li Jianheng took the opportunity to bar access to the Unsi Palace, where the Empress Dowager resided, on grounds that she was troubled by worries to the point of anxiety. After much difficulty, sufficient funds were gathered to make up Li Bei's military salaries and provisions, though Xiao Jiming's original number had been humbly rounded down. Xiao Fengshu and Xiao Jiming could not tarry, and set out for the frontier a few days later. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chuye did not look reluctant to part with them. It was as if after that drunken night, he'd abandoned all the focus and ambition he'd possessed during the autumn hunt. From time to time, Li Jianheng would bestow rewards upon him, and he would accept them graciously. On top of that, he started to loaf on the job. The Imperial Army had originally been assigned the important task of conducting city patrols, but Xiao Chuye worked in fits and starts, like the fishermen who fished for 3 days and rested for 2. There was often no sign of him when he was sought out. Murmurs of doubt gradually swelled in the Ministry of War, and many expressed an inclination to have him replaced. But Li Jianheng vociferously refused, going so far as to throw a tantrum and threaten to fall out with the vice minister of the Ministry of War who had presented the petition. Flinging away the memorial, he fumed. Xiao Zi'an has shown true valor in coming to our rescue. How does he not deserve to be Supreme Commander of the Imperial Army? He's not made any mistakes. We won't hear of replacing him. And so it was that the two of them reverted to the easy camaraderie they'd shared before the autumn hunt, and Li Jianheng felt a little more at ease. The Xiao Chuye of that night was like a figment of his imagination, while this young man without an ounce of decorum was his familiar friend. Li Jianheng was additionally relieved Xiao Chuye made no mention of returning to Li Bei. He believed this was his friend's way of showing consideration for his constraints. After all, there was really nothing he could do. And couldn't Xiao Chuye have plenty of fun right here in Chudu? Now that Li Jianheng had become the emperor, his good friend Xiao Chuye could throw his weight around as he pleased. Why return to Li Bei? How could that bitter land be as comfortable and carefree as the capital? When Xiao Chuye wanted to head out of the city to run his horse, Li Jianheng approved it. When Xiao Chuye wanted to expand the Imperial Army office, Li Jianheng approved it. And when Xiao Chuye wanted to be on duty for half a day and laze at home the other half, Li Jianheng not only approved it, he approved it with great delight. The two of them often rode horses and played polo together. Perhaps Li Jianheng couldn't fool around on Donglong Street anymore, but he could invite Xiao Chuye to listen to the pipa in the palace with him. The young lady Mu Ru had taken up a permanent residence in Mingli Hall. Li Jianheng had feared at first that Xiao Chuye would disapprove, but his friend said nothing and merely enjoyed the merriment. Who wants to take bets that she's like a spy? I feel like that's what she's doing. It felt so fucking good to be emperor. As the last autumn rain washed the roofs of Chudu, the Court of Judicial Review sentenced Shi Guan to execution by beheading. Shi Hongshuan, his younger brother, had done what he could to make amends by distributing his clan's wealth. For this, he earned a place in Li Jianheng's good graces and was transferred to the Ministry of Revenue, where he took up a modest position. Shi Hongxuan had always been an expert organizer of frivolities, which was exactly to Li Jianheng's taste. He would go looking for the emperor every day with new ideas for a good time. Not long after Shi Guan was sentenced, Hua Siqian committed suicide in prison by biting off his own tongue. He left behind a written confession in which he shouldered all responsibility for his crimes and did not implicate the Empress Dowager in the slightest. This left only Jilei and Pan Rugui yet to be sentenced. Hai Liangyi had dearly wished to pry a confession from their mouths, but he never succeeded. It was damp in the little house when Shen Zichuan returned home. The moment he opened the door, he saw the Eastern Pearl waiting on the table. He closed the door quickly behind him and had only just picked it up when he heard Chen Yang knocking. He opened the door and Chen Yang said, "The Supreme Commander is calling for you." Shen Zichuan curled his fingers around the Eastern Pearl. The strip of cloth it came wrapped in was rain-soaked. "I'll go after I change my clothes," he said evenly. "Don't bother," Chen Yang said. "Just go as you are. His Excellency doesn't like to wait." He stepped aside, ready to leave together. Shen Zichuan could do nothing but let his hand drop to his side and stride out the door with Chen Yang. They found Xiao Chuye with a heavy overcoat on. When he saw Shen Zichuan, he said, "Take my sword and come with me." Shen Zichuan followed him out. It was only when Xiao Chuye led his horse over himself that Shen Zichuan realized Chen Yang was gone. As Xiao Chuye mounted his horse, the gerfalcon shook droplets off his neck and landed on his master's shoulder. Shen Zichuan followed him out of the city. They braved the rain and headed for the drill grounds at Mount Feng. There was hardly anyone there when they arrived. Xiao Chuye removed Snowcrest's bridle and gave it a pat as permission to run freely around the grounds. Meng glided under the eaves of the walkway, unwilling to stay in the rain. Halfway through taking off his overcoat, Xiao Chuye turned to Shen Zichuan. "Take your clothes off." Holding Xiao Chuye's sword in his arms, Shen Zichuan raised his chin high. Water trickled down his collar, exposing his fair, delicate neck. Every time Xiao Chuye looked at that neck, he felt like someone seeing a cat. He couldn't help but want to give it a few strokes. What the hell was wrong with him? Thus distracted, he shrugged off his damp outer layer. When he saw Shen Zichuan still standing there, he said again, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and take your clothes off." Shen Zichuan's fingers hovered at his belt. He glanced at Xiao Chuye and said slowly, "If I take these off, there will be nothing left." That's the end of the chapter. Okay, let me tell you something. The chapter ends there, and when we come back next Monday, we will be on page 315 for chapter 31, which is called Nape. So we kind of have to stop on a kind of a cliffhanger moment, unfortunately. Also, if I counted correctly, I think next Wednesday, we will be finishing volume 1. Yeah. It's really happening. We just have 2 more streams after this. And that's it. Um, so I've been having a blast. Um, the very first, like, stream of this book, I was, like, nervous. Because I was like, I can't absorb all this information, and I didn't know what the tone was going to be. And the very first, like, when you start the book, it's, like, very Chen Zichuan's, like, situation as a prisoner. But so I didn't expect all of, like, the humor. So I'm so glad. Oh, can everyone hear and see me? Is my connection okay, or did I just lag for a second? It just told me that it lost data for like a split second, but I think we're good. Anyway, there's a spoilery illustration as the last page of the volume. Uh-huh. Um, I won't say I've kind of seen that already. I tried to avoid it, but it kind of happened because I was looking at the like character names at the end and I accidentally flipped to that page. So I know exactly what you mean, Blue. But that's okay because you know, it's about the journey, not the destination. So thank you. It's so hard to avoid, exactly. Okay, I just dropped for a sec. Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just saying I didn't expect like the humor in this book, and the tone is like a lot lighter than I kind of initially thought from like the first stream. And I'm just really glad it's like I just like look forward to this every week, and it's really picked up a lot, and it's been very exciting. Um so I'm having a great time. And yeah, oh, speaking of illustrations, I think the colored illustration is safe for this volume. Do we want to look at that right now? I think I've seen that too. Um, yes. It's safe because it kind of doesn't really, you know, show anything crazy happening, but it's pretty. So we're just gonna look at that now. Look at that, and it's snowy. Yeah. Um, yeah, Henry, at first you think it'll be light on the romance, and then you meet after the time skip and you're like, oh, never mind, I was mistaken. Exactly. Yes, we get to see the height difference in the art. Yes. Henry, you always look at those first thing when you open the book. That's the thing, is sometimes they're really spoilery and sometimes they're like extremely vague and they don't really tell you anything and you never know what it's going to be. So I have started like avoiding them at first until I hear otherwise. Yeah, Blue, you didn't expect so much romance. Like I really and this is different because coming from reading Remnants of Filth, that was like they were already romantically acquainted before, and then we kind of pick back up. Um, this is like completely a different, like situation. It's like the initial flirting thing that we didn't get, in that series. So it's just interesting because I'm like, I don't know, something about it just like feels new to me. So yeah, I'm having a great time. I really wish we could just do more right now. I want to know what happens. But alas, I will see y'all on Monday. So thank you for coming and have a good one. Bye.